Like, he talks about how an American dog has more rights than an Iranian citizen, right? Like, an American dog can bite you, and if you try to put the dog down, or if you even like shout at the American or whatever, like, it's more likely that the Iranian gets in trouble than the dog, right?
Lay down your arms and receive full immunity or face certain death. It will be certain death. Won't be pretty.
Noah Samsen's a fucking retard, okay? He's a pathetic, low IQ, dead behind the eyes, fucking slow, droning fucking moron. He's an idiot. He doesn't know anything about anything that he talks about. He gets all his information from just a handful of fucking brain-dead Twitter accounts that he thinks are gospel. Okay, listen, guys, breaking news, okay? Ayatollah Khamenei, Supreme Leader of the Islamic Republic of Iran, as of 1st of March 2026, is dead. Whoa. Sorry about that. Sorry. Listen, Hassan's a bit excited, okay? That's fine. Don't worry about him. He was struck on the first day of this renewed conflict between Israel, America, and Iran, and apparently several other Gulf countries. This was the image of his compound after it was struck by the Israelis. There was a back and forth for the whole day about whether or not he was confirmed dead, although it seemed increasingly likely as time went on. And then his death was announced on Iranian state TV. This standard thing. This doesn't have a translation, so I won't watch the whole thing, but basically the guy's like announcing the Ayatollah's death and crying, like this kind of...
Allahu Akbar.
That means God is great. I know that one, okay.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. من المؤمنين رجال صدقوا ما عاهدوا الله عليه فمنهم من قضى نحبه ومنهم من ينتظر وما بدلوا تبديلا إنا لله.
You can hear the guy crying in the background as well. Like the studio is actually like joining in with it, like whoever the cameraman is. Yeah, they're pretty distraught. That's their supreme leader. They're, again, if you're religious, right? If you're a part of this movement, then that's a very incredibly symbolic figure. That's like a father figure almost, or beyond a father figure. Crying or laughing. No, he's done, man. This guy is crashing out. Okay, this guy's state media. He's invested. He's bought in. The Ayatollah Khamenei, he's been there since what, 1989? 1989. Because that's when Ruhollah Khomeini died in 89. And if you ever want to look up a really serious funeral procedure, you should look at his one. People literally jumping and clamoring just to get to touch the tomb or whatever that he was that his body was being held in. Yeah, these leaders hold quite a lot. These leaders hold quite a lot of sway. They're very symbolic leaders. It's interesting with Khamenei because there's always this trend, right? And I've spoken about this before with authoritarian dictatorships and how they... Yeah, dozens of people died at Khamenei's funeral because of the crowds, like the swarming. Yeah. In any case, there's always this trend with authoritarian regimes where you have this first initial leader who is this very usually enveloped in a kind of mystique, and they've usually been involved in some kind of like very exceptional activism or gone through like a long period of suffering, and they have a huge sort of charisma around them and like an aura and a larger than life kind of personality. And then they usually get replaced when they pass their time by just the complete opposite, by like someone who's just there as a result of being in the right place at the right time, like kind of unimpressive, like just a little bit like just an inheritor, right? And it's like, it makes sense because for people who are revolutionaries, it's so much easier to promise something that doesn't exist and to build your support off of something that doesn't exist yet, because you can promise the world, you can appeal to people's imaginations, and you can use the strife and the struggle of the time that people live in always to your benefit, right? So that's why the likes of but then once they've got power and once they have to live up to these promises, and it turns out that people who have all the talents required for gaining power are not necessarily the right people for delivering on promises and delivering to the people that they've made promises to, which is why you end up going from the likes of Fidel Castro to Raul, or from Chairman Mao to the poor guy whose name I still can't remember, between Mao and Deng. He lasted a very brief period. He was described as the whateverist. There was like a faction of like Dengists and then there's like the democracy faction, there was the Dengists, and then there was also the whateverists, and they were called that because their whole policy program was just, whatever Mao would have done, whatever Mao was doing. The whateverists, they were called in a derogatory fashion, obviously. It's sort of similar with Ruhollah Khomeini and his successor in 89. Khamenei wasn't even really, there's a kind of contention about whether or not he should have even been an Ayatollah, because to be at that level, which puts you up to be supreme leader, because the whole point of Iran, the Islamic Republic, is that the people are governed by clerics, by educated clerics. Like, that's the whole revolutionary shift, is that clerics who usually had a much more apolitical role before 79 are now coming in to literally like govern the country almost. Yeah. So, and to be the guardians of the Islamic society and to export the Islamic revolution as well. But with Khamenei, there's this whole process that I can't remember the details, but there's this whole process that people have to go through to get that status. And you have to be like a religious scholar and demonstrate like a level of knowledge, wisdom, or whatever, and to have like a strong record. And you have to go to Qom, which I believe is like a holy city in Iran, like one of the Shia shrine cities, where you have to pass a whole bunch of tests and everything. You have to cross a bunch of milestones, which Khamenei hadn't actually done. He was kind of just he just became like Ayatollah like around the same time that he was appointed supreme leader. He was a political figure, not like a religious one. And then basically from 89 up until now, his role has basically been to he's presided over a regime that has just been hanging on, that has just been squashing dissent and just staying and just keeping things afloat, and also just trying their best to fulfill their political goals, whether it was like nuclear uranium enrichment or the proxies getting funded, being a thorn in the side of Western influence in the region. But it does make you wonder, like when people think about why this whole thing exists, I guess, like why the Islamic Republic came into being. And there's a whole story about how Ruhollah Khomeini and his followers did an incredible job at going from being a kind of obscure religious leader, just giving lectures about mysticism and putting forth like kind of new Islamic theories, to being a critic of the Shah, to being a critic of the United States, which is what got Khomeini kicked out of Iran in 64, to living in exile, to basically masterminding a revolution from France. That's where Khomeini was when the 79 revolution happened, and then coming back to basically turn on all the people that you sort of fooled with your mixed messaging, and mixed messaging that would kind of lead different political factions to think that you were on their side and that you had common interests, and then just going back on all of it. He actually even tricked Jimmy Carter into helping his transition to power, because once the Shah was basically on his way out, once he had lost credibility, he was still refusing to leave the country at this point, but his credibility was done in 79, and Ruhollah Khomeini was pretty much expected to be the guy to go back and take control. Jimmy Carter and his administration were communicating with the Ayatollah at this time. We know this now from leaked documents, and that he was sending messages to the administration and giving assurances in public as well that he wouldn't try to export the revolution. That was one. He said that he was going to still be open to the idea of trade with the United States. That was the whole thing. The oil industry would not just go in a completely different direction. People in the country would be treated fairly, and there wouldn't be any there were a lot of assurances given. And then obviously he goes back on them as soon as he comes in. But those assurances, the way he spoke to different factions at different times, had won him not really support. People mischaracterize this. It wasn't really like fully fledged support from international left wingers, but definitely a kind of blasé attitude or a kind of curiosity. But it did also result in Jimmy Carter effectively streamlining his way into power. Jimmy Carter used these assurances and used these hopes to make sure that there was a smooth transition in terms of the military and to get the Shah out of the country, or to persuade the Shah to finally stand down and leave, and to make sure that it basically just didn't descend into a total civil war afterwards instead. Jimmy Carter thought that a stable regime with the Ayatollah would be preferable to a civil war. So he did a good job of that. He did a good job at fooling people. But why? The reason why is that he had a mission. He had a religious and ideological mission, which in his mind was to free the Islamic world of what he believed were outside influences. So when he's in exile, he comes up with this collection of seminars and sort of consolidates a bunch of his theories into this sort of 90 or something page quasi manifesto called The Governance of the Jurist, the Vilayat el-Faqih, the Persian pronunciation. Which is basically it's like medieval. It's a full-on like return to tradition. But like the idea, it talks about flogging people for drinking alcohol. It talks about the punishments for women for not covering up, and it talks about the inequality of men and women. It talks about like all like the need for clerics to have like a very prominent role in governing a country. Like it's very much because he believed that the Islamic world, ever since the death of the Prophet and ever since Ali, the fourth successor to the Prophet, was not the main successor, and ever since Hassan and Hussein were denied their right of succession as well, and the Shiites were persecuted, like ever since then, he believed that the Islamic world was corrupted by outside influences. So all the way from the initial successors of the Prophet up through the Ottoman Empire, and then up until obviously the British mandates and the French mandates and the pan-Arab nationalism, like all the way, the Islamic world was being sort of impure. So he spoke about this whole like quality of purity, which also coalesced a lot with being sort of poor and meek and modest, which again, he was like a lot of the religious leaders in Iran were wealthy. It was kind of like but it was an aesthetic. And then that was very good at winning him the support of leftists in Iran, like Soviet-backed leftists. The Tudeh party were supportive of the Ayatollah. The way that he did it was quite interesting because he gives these speeches in the 50s, which are largely about just religion, just about mysticism and religious theory. And then when he's attacking the Shah towards the late 50s, early 60s, a lot of it is a bit disorganized. So he doesn't name America directly for a good while. He talks about being corrupted by foreign forces. He talks about a lot of the Western arrogance and the Western degeneracy almost that is degrading the spirit of the people in Iran and weakening the country and weakening the soul of the country. So all these things that are emerging in the country, like an emerging middle and upper class that are enjoying all of the perks of Western society and the opulence and the fact that Iran is being kind of humiliated in a sense that they're behaving like there's been a coup, right? Like from the 50s, that they are basically just acting as a sort of like lapdog for another country, while some people see the benefits of it and most people don't. But a lot of his complaints are just like, they don't really land. So one of the complaints he makes quite a lot is about women's skirts, like the way women are dressing and showing their hair in public, which he was very offended by. He thought this was like the women of Iran were basically, that they were distracting men from their duties, like from their religious and from their pious duty. But it really lands, and he becomes like a really prominent figure around 64, which is when he's exiled. But it was at that time, in that year, when a law passed in Iran that gave a pretty large concession to American personnel in the country. And it basically meant that an American, usually personnel or their families who were in Iran, couldn't be prosecuted by the Iranian government if they committed crimes. They would only get prosecuted in America. And he writes this screed against American influence and belittling the Shah, like very, like talking about how like his attacking his youth and his like a carelessness and his lack of wisdom and everything, like really like humiliating the Shah in this speech. But he calls out the United States directly, which he hadn't done all that often before. And he has this line, which is like really gripping, which is like, he talks about how an American dog has more rights than an Iranian citizen, right? Like an American dog can bite you, and if you try to put the dog down, or if you even like shout at the American or whatever, like it's more likely that the Iranian gets in trouble than the dog, right? So it's just like, and then that captures people. That captures people who are not necessarily religious, but people who are opposed to American influence and to Western influence in the country. It appeals to working class people. It appeals to leftists. And this is actually also kind of like the genesis of this kind of like red-green alliance that we see today. This idea that leftists and Islamic fundamentalists can sort of see some overlap in the things that they care about and find a common language. So where the Ayatollah might speak about the living a simple life and not engaging in opulence and not engaging in the impurities that are so tightly knit in with capitalism, right? With capitalism and consumerism. Well, that sounds very similar to Mao. That sounds very similar to Chairman Mao's story in living in exile or living in hiding in his cave in Yan'an, and basically this horribly neglected area in northern China, and he's basically pulling together, repairing a totally decimated revolutionary force, just with the most limited conditions you could possibly imagine, to eventually take over the country. So and also the anti-Westernism, the anti-imperialism it's also very Maoist in a way, and it also seduces a lot of the Soviet-backed groups in the country as well. And anyone who was more, even some people who were liberal-minded, who were against the Shah, were falling for this as well. But the main thing that you see, and you'll probably hear this if you ever listen to things like Arab media and talking about fighting with the West, you hear this word mukawama, right, which means resistance. And when they say resistance, they mean something very different to how leftists imagine it. When they say, when a left winger hears about resistance, they think about people who are being occupied or colonized usually for plunder, by an imperialist force, and they are fighting against them so as to basically make that plundering project more expensive than it is worth, as in to make it more costly than it has benefits. So the idea is that they give up and leave. And it's also kind of redemptive. It talks like there's a lot of stuff about how violence from the oppressed is like a redemptive thing. Like it's a way of them reclaiming their identity. That's how they see it. And there is a bit of overlap there. Okay, we think about the West Bank, for example. But when they say resistance, they also mean resistance to, at least in the Ayatollah's way, they see resistance as pretty much any external influence, like anything at all. They believe that ever since the death of the Prophet, the Islamic world was being corrupted. When they talk about Israel, they don't start in 1948. They don't even start in 17. They don't even start in 1881. They start in an unspecified period several hundred years ago. This is what Ruhollah Khomeini says. He talks about, I can find it actually, if it's still up. Yep, the Iranian government website isn't completely done. He talks about Jews meddling with the texts, like with the Quran, in order to corrupt the Islamic world. This is also, look at how, this is from the introduction. It's very high up. at the beginning. From the beginning, the historical movement of Islam has had to contend with the Jews, for it was they who first established anti-Islamic propaganda and engaged in various stratagems, and as you can see, this activity continues down to the present. Later, they were joined by other groups who were, in certain respects, more satanic than they. These new groups began their imperialist penetration of the Muslim countries about 300 years ago, and they regard it as necessary to work for the extirpation of Islam in order to attain their ultimate goals. Now, I don't know what Jews were doing to the Islamic world in 300 years ago, or 300 years since, what, the 50s or 60s when this was written. Probably not much, I would imagine. Although I do think there is this kind of period where they talk about the decline of Islam sort of beginning when the Ottomans got pushed back from Vienna, maybe. In any case, when they say resistance, they are talking about, it's not just Israel being what they consider to be Jewish encroachment on Muslim land. It's not even American influence, and it's like it's any influence almost. It's just that the first test, obviously, is the Jews, the little Satan, and then beyond that, you've got America, the great Satan, the ones that are, in his view, the only way that it was possible for Jews to ever defeat Muslims. That's what they see. And obviously, they are still, in that context, they're still technically underdogs. They don't have the strength to defeat Israel or America or any other foreign influence in a conventional war, but they do actually have the ability to harass and to destabilize and to spread their revolution as much as they can, to basically wage like a war of attrition. And to them, like, that's why martyrdom is not really seen necessarily as a bad thing. It's seen as people who are like living this life, which is a test, and then giving themselves to this greater cause, because one day it will be enough that it gives, right? So, and the result, obviously, to cut a long story short, that was such a massive ramble, I'm so sorry. To cut a long story short, this is why the Axis of Resistance does what they do. This is why they fund Houthis over in Yemen. This is why they fund Hezbollah. This is why they fund proxies in Iraq. And this is why they operate all kinds of clandestine operations around the world. Like, Iran has tried to kidnap American Iranian journalists in New York this decade. They've tried to do that. Okay. It's because they see the Islamic world as defeated or severely weakened on the back foot, and they believe that the reason for this is that they have allowed, amongst other reasons, is that they have basically allowed external influence to corrupt them from within, and then there's a need of like a cleansing almost, which is why in Iran, like, they still, even in this decade, they flog people for drinking alcohol, right? Like, because it's all part of that greater cause. And this is also why Iran, despite being a very well-educated population, despite having a lot of natural resources, is in the gutter economically and socially. That's why it's not just because of sanctions, okay? Sanctions obviously play their role, but again, those sanctions are all very tied into very real things that happen. So why did the US ever sanction Iran to begin with? It wasn't because of the revolution. It wasn't just because they changed leaders, because they got rid of the Shah. The sanctions didn't come in until quite shortly after, when a group of students, apparently leaderless students in Ayatollah's Iran, kidnapped American embassy workers. That's when that happened, and it held them hostage because they wanted to get the Shah extradited to Iran, and the Ayatollah supported it. So that was the kind of thing that he had assured the Carter administration that he wouldn't support, and he did support it. He fully supported it. So why am I getting a lot of links here? Dastardly uni students. Yep, pretty rough. So that's why the sanctions started. And then obviously they were accused by basically everyone of trying to procure nuclear weapons secretly before 2003. And that's why you had the very, very strange sort of environment that surrounded like the JCPOA, with them not wanting to make it renewable, with them just after, very shortly after signing the JCPOA, they're still staying within the terms, but then Obama is having to complain at them because although they're within the JCPOA, they have just for some reason decided that this is a good time for us to start testing ballistic missiles and saying, oh yeah, these are like perfect for striking Israel. This is like completely within range of Israel. And they are making public announcements about how the end of Israel will come within 15, 25, 30 years or whatever. They have that countdown clock in Tehran. And it's because, again, like the goal is always like it's put on the back burner, or it's always just them like working with the means that they have at the moment to achieve this goal. And the result of it is that lots of countries don't want to deal with them. Lots of countries want them to be as economically and militarily choked as possible because of how much damage they would do if they weren't. And they've kind of held on to that position for quite a while. You know, don't underestimate how good a regime is at staying in power if they're a dictatorship. Obviously, to begin with, the Iraq war, the Iraq invasion of Iran helped quite a lot for consolidating power. You know that like when the revolution happened in '79, it was immediately followed by a civil conflict by lots of various factions who opposed and realized very quickly what this regime was about. And it's arguable actually that the Iraqi invasion of Iran saved it, in a sense that it managed to justify a lot of the sort of brutal crackdowns that were taking place for the sake of national security or whatever else. And the end of the Iraq war was around the same time when they decided to pass a decree to murder all of the remaining political prisoners that they were holding on to. So they've held into the situation for quite a while. And and obviously people become disillusioned, like they were already disillusioned, and the regime starts to kind of lose belief in itself. I'm pretty sure it's again, there's a lot of Mao overlap. I never even thought about this before, but you get into a situation where you've got initial revolutionaries who are very convincing with their rhetoric, and they're very charismatic, and they've got a very strong belief in what they're pushing for. But then the reality gets a little bit stale. It gets a little bit underwhelming to a lot of people. So now in the present day, you get like IRGC officials are going on holiday, and then people are taking pictures on Instagram and spreading around that they're actually behaving in a bit of like degenerate behavior themselves. Like sometimes, like I think every now and then you hear about like IRGC officials who are caught drinking in Paris or some shit. Like it's just like a system that doesn't really believe in itself that much, and they become people. Also, not to mention people enriching themselves through their control over the economy. A lot of the Iranian economy is controlled by the IRGC, especially the oil trade. And although there are some occasions where corrupt individuals do get executed and caught, a lot of them are just like, they don't even get audited. A lot of them are handed very special contracts with like no competition, which is obviously a very anti-free market thing to do, where they just sell stuff off to regime people who just enrich themselves and enrich their families. So very similar to the idea in China as well. You start with this old guard of revolutionaries who suffer and struggle through the most horrendous and most hostile conditions to create this peasant movement that takes over the country. But then you get to the 70s and the 80s where a lot of this old guard they're either dying or dead, and then the newer guard are coming in, and the sons and daughters of the old guard are starting to just kind of are really just in it for self-enrichment. So when you get to the stage of Deng and the markets are opening up, well, the first people to come in are the sons and daughters of party members who buy a bunch of goods when they're on the cheap at state set levels and then sell them internationally on market prices and just make a shitload of money. And then that obviously does kind of pave the way for protest movements. In China, I guess it was Tiananmen Square and the student movements. Here, it was the movements against the hijabs. Like Iran deals with protests like all the time. Every few years, they seem to have like a massive protest movement that just gets crushed by security forces, and the fact that most of them are unarmed. So why am I saying all that? To put today into context, the regime is incredibly unpopular. There has long been this period where they have tried to appease the population by offering a variety of presidential candidates who are all approved by the Ayatollah. They have to be. But some of them definitely signal like more of a moderated reformist stance within the regime's parameters. Sometimes the Ayatollah selects a candidate and that candidate doesn't win, as in like he endorses a candidate and they don't win. And it shows that there's like an appetite for change. And for a long time, even in the 2000s, like I remember 2009 when they were talking about when the big protest complaint was about participation and votes and like more choices. So the reformist branch was around for quite a while. And you had Ahmadinejad, who was quite known as like the great neoliberal leader of Iran, like privatizing industries and opening up to markets. And you had one president who condemned the 9/11 attacks in 2001. So you have this kind of like moderate sort of veneer of moderation, but because the goals are so incompatible with any kind of like moderate politics, then Khatami, you know what, dude, tangent. I was talking to my mom today and she told me that apparently we bumped into, she claims that we bumped into Khatami in the Emirates because he was there for some kind of event. I think just around, just maybe tiny bit before, just after he became president. We were in a bookshop apparently. I don't remember this. I was a fucking child. But apparently we're in a bookshop and he was there as like some kind of like press opportunity or whatever. But like the whole point was that he was there to find books for his kids because they were seeking more cordial relations with the Emirates. So apparently my mum's met him and spoken to him, but I was there, but I don't remember. I have no memory of this. But and yeah, interesting. Any case, the reformism failed. Literally no one in Iran talks about it anymore. In Iran now, you are pro-regime change or you are anti-regime change. That's it. But despite that disillusionment, there's also been the unfortunate other side of things, which it turns out recently, we've just learned the CIA are worrying about this in the current war. They're worrying about the fact that in order to get past this kind of disillusionment, the IRGC, not too long ago, decided to invest an extra amount of money into educating and indoctrinating their younger members because they wanted to keep some kind of ideological hold over the country. They wanted to make sure ideological consistency remained through the decades. And the result of that is that the younger generation of the IRGC are the most radical ones. They are much more radical than even the leaders of the revolution. So these are also the same youths in large part who are gunning down protesters en masse. That's probably the reason that they had no problem killing like 7,000 of their own people for mostly peacefully protesting in what, like 3 or 4 days? That's one of the fears that the CIA have had right now. Now there is a big fear that if the regime even gets disorganized or debilitated enough by these airstrikes, there's going to be a power vacuum. And yes, that power vacuum could be filled by protesters, but it could also get filled by it could also get filled by IRGC hardliners, like the youth. And then you could have like a military junta that's even worse than the regime right now. So that is a big fear. People who are laughing at me calling Ahmadinejad neoliberal, I'm talking about the definition of neoliberal that people used in the past when it actually meant something, as in like for economic reform. That's all I'm talking about. Yeah, otherwise Ahmadinejad was like obviously very conservative, very regime, not really reformist. Okay, fuck you. Stop. Jesus. I'm not going by this stupid Reddit definition of neoliberalism that people are using, and words lost its meaning. Okay, shut up. Anyway, I think technically Ahmadinejad would have been a principalist, but whatever, Iranian politics. The first day of this war has been pretty... Okay, the regime needs to go, okay? That's very obvious. It's just the question of how you do it. The plan looks very okay on paper, as in airstrike the regime, soften the ground up. At some point, Reza Pahlavi is going to apparently give the call when the time is right. His current orders are stand back and stand by. But at some point, he's going to decide the time is right for the protesters to do something, I guess, storm the buildings, take over the country, bring it back, win their freedom, hold elections, whatever. He's got a whole program for how he expects this to happen. That all sounds like it could, that all sounds like a very bold and very optimistic idea, but the problem is that it's never really been done before. I'm still yet to hear an example of where this has happened, where a crowd of mostly peaceful protesters has come in after an air campaign, no boots on the ground, and just taken over, defeated the leftovers, basically. And whichever remaining armed forces there are that survive the bombings are either defectors or they're just too weak and they get overthrown by unarmed protesters. Like, maybe, but the level of organization and knowledge and intelligence you would need to achieve that is quite insane. Iran's a big country. It's like 90 million people. And it's not as unified as people think. Like, it does have factions. You have the Balochis, you've got the Kurds, who are actually quite well armed. You've got the Azeris. There's a lot going on there, okay? But on paper, it is a good plan. It would be a good thing if it worked. I just don't know if it will. As far as day one goes, I'd say it's probably gone relatively well for achieving that goal. The Ayatollah is dead. Former presidents are dead. Ahmadinejad is dead. The chief of staff is dead. About 40 top commanders are killed. A whole bunch of various political and military leaders are dead. There's going to have to be this very top-down process for selecting a new leader. They currently have some interim that no one knows or cares about. The Ayatollah Khamenei's problem for a while has actually been that he doesn't really have anyone on his successor list that is of any note. Like, there's not really anyone there that can command any popular support or anything like that. No big names. So they're in disarray. Their response yesterday and apparently today has just been to there's a whole meme, isn't there? I don't know where this strategy came from. I mean, I know why it's there. Is to say that they're attacking American military bases or countries that are hosting American military bases. But it seems a lot of these strikes, these drones, these Shahed drones, which are not completely inaccurate, are just finding their way into hotel buildings and residential buildings in Bahrain and the Emirates. This is a video of a British man in Dubai, apparently.
No joking, guys. We have just been hit by a drone. We heard it coming. It stinks of oil in here. I didn't even finish my cup of tea. We've just been hit by a drone. We're in Water 1 on the top floor. 19th floor. We're off. Doing it.
It just looks like quite a bit like my old flat when I was a kid. It was really funny. Obviously, there were no unexploded drones. Yeah, the Burj Al Arab was hit. The big old hotel, the jewel of Dubai. Damn. God damn it. Hope the cup didn't spill. I know, right? Poor guy. Not your cuppa. Man, Dubai, the population of Dubai is not built for this shit, man. There's no way. The reason this has happened is that Iran has decided that, and it's very obvious now that they see this as an existential war. They're taking very drastic measures. And rather than just unload on Tel Aviv or the rest of Israel, which they have done that. They've killed 8 Israelis, or maybe 9 so far, in one of the towns in central Israel. But they've also spread themselves very thin. There have been missiles that have landed, like drones and missiles have landed in Bahrain, in Kuwait, in Saudi, in Qatar, in Oman apparently has been attacked today. Oman is the mediator for the negotiations. Oman has had fine relations with Iran, really. Mixed reactions. The Arab world is furious, generally. They're saying that they all reserve the right to strike back on Iran. The Palestinian government, the State of Palestine official, condemned Iran's attacks on Arab states, of all people. And I guess the joke is that what's going on here in Iran? Like, we're being struck by America. Well, just bomb Dubai. Just bomb a hotel in Dubai. Okay, well, they've killed the Ayatollah. Well, just bomb Dubai. Okay, this just in, sir, a third Tower. They've destroyed our ballistic missiles. Okay. Fired drones at Dubai. Like, Dubai has been taking a real hammering lately. There is a logic to it. One is that if you're the IRGC, American targets are more valuable than Israeli ones, because Israel will absorb quite a few deaths to get rid of the regime in Iran. They'll keep chugging. They'll take deaths. America won't. What was it? Reagan famously said he wouldn't bow down to terrorism in '82, and then Hezbollah bombs a Marine barracks, killing like 200 or 300 people, and then they just leave. They just hard exit Lebanon. Obviously, that's a lot more people, but I think already 3 American personnel were killed in the sea, and then I think a few more are either injured or dead in Pakistan because an embassy was attacked. There's been a lot of they're taking losses after the first day. And remember Biden's pullout of Afghanistan. How many people died there? How many people died in Biden's pullout to that ISIS attack? 13 service members. How much of a story was that? To this day, that's a story. To this day. What's it going to be like in day 3 or 4 if these drones manage to kill like 20 service members? 15? 30? Trump is already apparently seeking a hard exit. He's already tried to renew negotiations for a deal. And I will say, if that is the result of those deaths of American soldiers, and if Trump is just saying, well, okay, if they get us a deal that I can sell in the press to my own people tomorrow, then I'll just leave. That would be such a despicable thing to do, again, because the protesters are already back out in the streets. They're already back out. They're emboldened. And then they're just going to, like, if they don't follow through to try and at least achieve the thing they say they're trying to achieve, because Trump can't handle a few servicemen getting, like, but it might happen. It might. America's tolerance for casualties is going to be insanely low. What is this video? Whoa. Oh, thanks. He said this will last for 4 weeks. Yeah, I know. They're saying this, several weeks. That's what I've been seeing. But there are also calls for renewed negotiations. Here's some of the reactions from Iranians around the world, diaspora included, obviously, to Khamenei's death. Some of these are inside Iran, yes. This would be the people who are still pro-regime, mourning the Ayatollah.
Iranian people, they want democracy, they want secularity, a secular regime, separation of religion and state.
Now, this is why you need a political analyst like me to tell you, but these are pro-regime guys, okay? Because that's the Ayatollah. Okay? These are pro-regime. You can see a few videos from, I guess, some of the more reliable Twitter accounts of street protests inside Isfahan in Iran. You can really see where all the different allegiances lie in all these different countries as well. It's actually a good way to teach people the complexities of the Middle East. So Bahrain, where there were US military bases getting hit, people are celebrating, right? And the Bahraini comments were very different from the ones coming from Kuwait and from Saudi and from the Emirates. It's because Bahrain is largely Shia. It's a Shia country. So they are going to be much more sympathetic to the regime and much more against. And obviously Bahrain has had problems with Saudi Arabia as well, to put it lightly. I think Saudi marched troops into Bahrain when they were protesting in the, when they were protesting in the Arab Spring. Sin Defender is not a reliable account. Generally, no, but I think for this one, these videos are kind of like everywhere. People in Syria. Also, don't be confused by some of this, because although it is true that there are a lot of Shiites in Bahrain, sometimes these bombings and people dancing around is like, some people are just excited because something's happening and it's not happening to them directly. So, yeah. Syrians obviously are celebrating because Hezbollah took Assad's side. Iranian influence in Syria and Assad's Syria was part of the axis of resistance, and they attribute a lot of the suffering that they endured and all the deaths and the hundreds of thousands that they had at the hands of Assad and his allies. They attribute a lot of that to Iran, to Iranian influence. This account I know is a bit more reliable, but again, it's just street protests around Iran celebrating. But nobody is as happy as Zionism. Oh, nice one. I think these fireworks people have these fireworks because of Ramadan. Is that they're saved for or there's some seasonal thing or some holiday that they save the fireworks for. It's coming quite soon. But they're obviously using them a bit prematurely now. It was for last Wednesday before New Year's. Oh, okay. I'm not going to try to pronounce that word, but it's for something, okay? That's why they had them. They don't just happen to own them in their fucking cupboards for no reason. Some of the strikes from today, apparently they are also, again, this was my suspicion, they're going after, I think this is the Besieged, the motorcycle security forces. These are the people who were last seen in the headlines for driving around Iran to murder protesters. They were struck as well. Again, this was shared in a few places, so... This one is definitely real. That one was like 90% reliable. This one's 100% reliable. Okay, Yeet never gets anything wrong. Sneeko, remember Sneeko is calls himself a Muslim because of Andrew Tate.
Imam Ali salawatullah alayhi wa salamuhu alayhima.
He's listening to the announcement of the Ayatollah's death.
در ماه مبارک رمضان با سر دادن ندای آسمانی فست و به رد الکعبه به ساحت مقدس الهی واصل گردید و شهد گوارای شهادت را در این ماه مبارک نوش نمود. امام علی صلوات الله علیه
That's a very real and very in his depth Muslim convert there. These guys will make fun of Pelosi for taking the knee for BLM, right? Unbelievable. Isn't he a Sunni as well? Dude, do you think he gives a do you think he gives a fuck? Absolutely not. No. What are you talking about? Oh yeah, I saw this as well. This was interesting. Wait, where was it? Fuck. Where was it? Did I lose it? No way. I didn't lose it. No, okay. I don't know why he's retweeting this account. So the Israelis who died, the 8 or 9 of them in this shelter, Iranians struck a shelter. The numbers of confirmed dead are higher than any single incident during the 12-day war. I suspect this will change the risk profile for Israelis. As far as I can tell, Israelis are holding out quite a lot of hope for this continuing until the regime's gone. But good luck. Israelis are not quite like Americans. They don't like being in the shelters, obviously, but why is he retweeting someone who's saying that they're settlers? I know why he's doing it. They're not settlers. Beit Shemesh is here. It's in Israel. It's in Israel proper. It's actually not even that close to the... It's quite a few miles away from the Green Line. It's not... Shut up. Stupid. So stupid. This is still my favorite one, though. This is unbelievable. If there's any terrorism, quote, that happens on US soil now, you will never be able to convince me, nor millions of other Americans, that it wasn't Israel and America conducting it together to rally the masses to support an insanely unpopular war. There was apparently a killing or an incident in Austin that the FBI are calling terrorist, and obviously he's acting vindicated because he doesn't think it's convincing or whatever. Just so... What is he doing here? He's excusing an attack before it even happened. Dude. Denying an attack or denying the authenticity of an attack before it actually happened. Goofy as hell. There is some conjecture that Saudi Arabia might be firing back. I really hope they don't, because if you're worried about the accuracy of American or Israeli bombs, my God, Saudi Arabia is a whole different kettle of fish. Remember in Yemen, a third of their strikes hit a target, like a military target. The other third hit civilians. Not dual use, just civilians. And then the other third hit nothing at all. So, yeah, dude. Is this true from Israelis can help me as well on this one? Is it true that an Iranian missile has also struck Jerusalem just recently, like in the last hour? Again, Ihab Hassan doesn't usually share fake stuff.
صاروخهم بالضبط قدامنا نزل بالضبط هيضرب بالسيارة هون.
If ever, actually.
بالضبط قدامنا نزل أنا عندي انكسر الأزاز قدامي.
A road in
عم زور
Jerusalem,
رموت.
a highway. Oh.
لا بنزل أشياء. صاروخهم بالضبط قدامنا نزل بالضبط هيضرب بالسيارة هون. بالضبط قدامنا.
Yo. Get Luckner up, lad. Well, what else? What have I missed? People in the Emirates are not built for getting bombed, okay? I was listening to them yesterday. I was talking to some of them. Apparently one guy that I know, like a friend of a friend, was actually quite close to that hotel in the Palm that got struck. He was like next door to it. But apparently they're still trying their best to make... to stay normal. In Iraq, the situation is that there was a riot, or last I saw it was a protest, but I think it turned into a riot at the embassy, the US embassy. Because again, in Iraq, majority Shia country, there is a lot of sympathy for the regime, at least if it's vocal, and people who are And again, this is what I'm hearing from people who live there. Like, I just whatever, maybe it's a bias or whatever. But yeah, they're much more pro-regime there, and that's why they're protests against the embassy. And people who don't support the regime in Iran are just keeping their heads down. Apparently there was like some social media thing where people were celebrating the strikes on the US targets in the Gulf, and then other people who were saying this isn't our problem were getting shouted down and called a collaborator or whatever else. And that's like the typical thing. Like, yeah, that's what Hezbollah does as well, or the Axis. It's always you're a collaborator, even for like the slightest bit of defection. Yes, I understand. Breaking news. Breaking news. Keir Starmer has given an update on the situation. Axis militias also attacked US bases. Yeah. Yeah, I'm aware.
Yesterday, I spoke to you about the situation in the Gulf and explained that the United Kingdom was not involved in the strikes on Iran.
Uh-oh.
That
Not your problem.
remains the case. Over the last 2 days, Iran has launched sustained attacks across the region at countries who did not attack them. They've hit airports and hotels where British citizens...
They hit the airport in the Emirates, didn't they, in Dubai? How did they hit so many hotels, man? There's no way that's it. There's a video of a drone that gets like, I think it gets intercepted, or it just scuffs the Burj Khalifa, but it's mental. Yeah.
...are staying. This is clearly a dangerous situation. We have at least 200,000 British citizens in the region, residents, families on holiday, and those in transit. I ask all our people in the region to please register your presence and follow Foreign Office travel advice. I know this is a deeply worrying time, and we will continue to do all we can to support you. Our armed forces, who are located across the region, are also being put at risk by Iran's actions. Yesterday, Iran hit a military base in Bahrain, narrowly missing British personnel.
Oh, shit.
The death of the Supreme
Leader...
Leader...
I'm sorry. Can people who are still trying to get me to comment on this thing, because yeah, this thing was mentioned here, the death from a school. So based on those images alone, it's definitely the case that a school was hit. Okay. And we still, I don't believe, know exactly who did it. I've seen one OSINT account basically debunking the idea of a stray rocket. I've seen Drop Site, for as much as I take their word for anything, they seem to believe that the US struck it when they were aiming for a military base. That story is one that you should just wait on, okay? Like, don't fire into that one until there's more information. It's obvious that a school got struck. How many people were in it, and who? It would have been a school day because it's a Saturday. In Muslim countries, Saturday is a school day. So, no, it's not just IRGC propaganda. I'll show you what propaganda is, by the way, if you want to see what propaganda looks like on Twitter. Where is it? This piece of shit. I might start banning people for thinking that it's okay to share this person's account, because this person will just share whatever. And even when she's corrected, she won't take it down. She's completely fucking shameless. And some of you guys, I guess you like her because she's funny sometimes, like whatever. But people who are saying that the IRGC admitted that it was a stray rocket. No, this is a monarchist anti-regime Telegram account. No one in the regime has actually said this. This is bullshit. It's complete nonsense. You're a fucking moron for believing this shit. Like, just wait. Someone reputable, like the New York Times or CNN or PBS, or people will do investigations. They're going to find out, I guess, how close the school was to the military target, because apparently there was one, and who struck it. people right now are doing this thing where they're trying to hold two logically incompatible things together to just excuse it. Because the first principle is to excuse it. So the first thing that they're saying is that, oh, it's right next to a military base. Why are you got a school next to a military base? The second one is that they're saying it's a stray rocket. Okay, if it's a stray rocket, is it just a total coincidence that it landed right next to a military base, to a target? Is it just a complete coincidence that this stray rocket just randomly lands perfectly within the possible area of error for a sophisticated weapon to airstrike? Because I think with JDAMs, you've got like maybe 50 meters of range before of a radius of possible error from the original target, or you've got like maybe it goes up to 100 meters for dumb bombs with like sophisticated planes. I think the gap is probably maybe bigger for like a naval, like a sea to land strike. American CENTCOM said they were looking into it, okay? And it is somewhat near an IRGC facility. That's all we know, okay? But this building itself, there's no evidence that it was anything other than a school, okay? Yes, the circular error probable, yes.
Will not stop.
But it is real. It's not a fake video from fucking Afghanistan from 2020 or some shit. It's... chill.
Iran from launching these strikes. Their approach is becoming even more reckless and more dangerous to civilians. Our decision that the UK would not be involved with the strikes on Iran was deliberate, not least because we believe that the best way forward for the region and for the world is a negotiated settlement.
Because someone else will do it for you.
In which
that's what you
Iran
actually mean.
agrees to give up any aspirations to develop a nuclear weapon. But Iran is striking British interests nonetheless and putting British people at huge risk, along with our allies across the region. That is the situation we face today. Our partners in the Gulf have asked us to do more to defend them, and it is my duty to protect British lives. We have British jets in the air as part
He's
of
doing the infinity sign. Cute.
coordinated defensive operations, which have already successfully intercepted Iranian strikes.
IRGC took out their own quote-unquote school is very plausible. Muslims love their shohadat. Okay, hang on. Just a little bit of stream tangent. Okay, don't worry, guys. Give me a minute. I just have some business to attend to. Okay, serious business. I need to get involved in this war, okay? And I will carry out an incredibly precise strike on a piece of shit. Whoa! Where'd he go? Damn. That is a JDAM. Banned. Fuck. Go!
But the only way to stop the threat is to destroy the missiles at source, in their storage depots, or the launchers which are used to fire the missiles. The United States has requested permission to use British bases for that specific and limited defensive purpose. We have taken the decision to accept this request to prevent Iran firing missiles across the region, killing innocent civilians, putting British lives at risk, and hitting countries that have not been involved. The basis of our decision is the collective self-defence of long-standing friends and allies and protecting British lives. That is in accordance with international law, and we are publishing a summary of our legal advice. We are not joining these strikes, but we will continue with our defensive actions in the region. And we will also bring experts from Ukraine together with our own experts to help Gulf partners shoot down Iranian drones attacking them. I want to be very clear. We all remember the mistakes of Iraq, and we have learned those lessons. We were not involved in the initial strikes on Iran, and we will not join offensive action now. But Iran is pursuing a scorched earth strategy, so we are supporting the collective self-defense of our allies and our people in the region, because that is our duty to the British people. It is the best way to eliminate the urgent threat and prevent the situation spiralling further. This is the British government protecting British interests and British lives.
Why is he in a hallway? What? So you can get the flags in the background and the pictures. What's wrong with that? Okay, I don't know why I had to watch that. It's a very nothing statement from an uninvolved party, okay? Sorry. What do we have here? Sneeko saying more stuff.
But it's a reminder that this life is short. And so Khamenei, if he did die, if he died in this act, especially during the holy month of Ramadan, inshallah, he gets the highest rank in Jannah and he gets eternal paradise. He gets the highest rank, he gets martyrdom. That's the highest achievement we can get. But
okay. Assuming. Never mind. Is this a new one? Missile impact in Bahrain. No, this was on the 5th Fleet HQ. Yeah, okay. I think this is from today, but it's earlier. It's a good bit earlier today. Okay. We also have a Trump update on Epic Fury.
Over the past 36 hours, the United States and its partners have launched Operation Epic Fury.
Epic.
One of the largest,
Fury.
most complex, most overwhelming military offensives the world has ever seen. Nobody's seen anything like it.
Nothing like it.
We have hit hundreds of targets.
Big, beautiful bombs.
In Iran, including Revolutionary Guard facilities, Iranian air defense systems. Just now, it was announced that we knocked out 9 ships plus their naval building, all in a matter of literally minutes. Iran's formerly supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, is dead. This wretched and vile man.
Oh no, wait, say that again, Donald. Come on, you sundowning fuck. Come on.
Khamenei is dead.
One more for the boys, okay?
Supreme leader.
No, let's go earlier. Let's go. Okay, come on.
Literally minutes. Iran's formerly supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, is dead.
Sorry. He got a bit excited again. Okay, sorry.
Wretched and vile man had the blood of hundreds
Serious.
and even thousands of Americans on his hands and was responsible for the slaughter of countless thousands of innocent people all across many countries. Last night, all over Iran, the voices of the Iranian people could be heard cheering and celebrating in the streets when his death was announced. The entire military command is gone as well, and many of them want to surrender into saving their lives. They want immunity. They're calling by the thousands.
I am so curious to see how this is happening, because if they're saying that they're getting defectors communicating with the Americans or with the Israelis, and they're ready to, I don't know, man. Who knows?
Combat operations continue at this time in full force, and they will continue until all of our objectives are achieved. We have very strong objectives. They could have done something 2 weeks ago, but they just couldn't get there. Earlier today, CENTCOM shared the news that 3 U.S. military service members have been killed in action.
Shit.
As one nation, we grieve for the true American patriots who have made the ultimate sacrifice for our nation, even as we continue the righteous mission for which they gave their lives. We pray for the full recovery of the wounded and send our immense love and eternal gratitude to the families of the fallen. And sadly, there will likely be more. Before it ends, that's the way it is. Likely be more, but we'll do everything possible where that won't be the case. But America will avenge their deaths and deliver the most punishing blow to the terrorists who have waged war against basically civilization. They have waged war against civilization itself. Our resolve, and likewise that of Israel, has never been stronger. America is now, again, the richest, most powerful nation in the world by far. But the only reason we enjoy the quality of life that we do and the freedom and security is we have done things that others are unable to do. But it's because of warriors who are willing to lay down their lives to do battle with our enemies. And they do battle. We're going very
Hexeth. Warriors.
Anybody.
War makers.
An Iranian regime armed with long-range missiles and nuclear
Pikuaku, thanks for the tier 2 sub. I really appreciate that. Wow.
Nuclear weapons would be a dire threat to every American. We cannot allow a nation that raises terrorist armies to possess such weapons that would allow them to extort the world to their evil will. Not going to let it happen. We're not happening to us, and we're not going to let it happen to others. The United States has the strongest military the world has ever seen. I rebuilt our military in my first term. There's never been a military like we possess. And frankly, there's nobody even close, but we are now using that military for good. We want to have it for good purpose. We're undertaking this massive...
I guess Noah Samsen reacted to you, LOL. Uh-oh. This is old. This is old. This is months old. They're uploading this 2 days ago. Me doing the Mr. Girl cover. Yeah. Long story. Noah Samsen's a fucking retard. Okay, he's a pathetic, low IQ, dead behind the eyes, fucking slow droning fucking moron. He's an idiot. He doesn't know anything about anything that he talks about. He gets all his information from just a handful of fucking brain dead Twitter accounts that he thinks are gospel. He only ever tries to attack my personal life when he responds to me. And at best, when he does politics, he'll maybe like take a fucking bad empanada headline and not even be able to rephrase that properly. Yeah, this guy he is clueless. He is a clueless fuck who somehow thinks he's in a position to tell people to go and be fucking violent against weapons manufacturers in their own country or whatever else. And then even that, he deleted that comment because he was too much of a coward to actually try to inspire any action on his channel. Whatever. He's just a fucking moron. Stupid. Waste of time.
Operation not merely to ensure security for our own time and place, but for our children and their children, just as our ancestors have done for us many, many years ago. This is the duty and the burden of a free people. These actions are right and they are necessary to ensure that Americans will never have to face a radical, bloodthirsty terrorist regime armed with nuclear weapons and lots of threats. For almost 50 years, these wicked extremists have been attacking the United States while chanting the slogan, "Death to America," or "Death to Israel," or both. They are the world's number one state sponsor of terror. We are the world's greatest and most powerful nation, so we can do something about what they do. These intolerable threats will not continue any longer. I once again urge the Revolutionary Guard, the Iranian military, and police to lay down your arms and receive full immunity or face certain death. It will be certain death. Won't be pretty. I call upon all Iranian patriots who yearn for freedom to seize this moment, to be brave, be bold, be heroic, and take back your country. America is with you. I made a promise to you. and I fulfilled that promise. The rest will be up to you, but we'll be there to help. Thank you. God bless you to our incredible warriors, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Wow. Why is he offering full immunity? It's a very normal thing to do. Yeah, even al-Shara did that in Syria. Yeah, obviously, if you want to get a quick surrender, yeah, you offer you offer immunity to the people who are going to defect and give up quickly. Yeah, because it expedites the process. Rational disconnect. Good Twitter user. Good Twitter user. It's been over 6 hours since people told Kyle Kalinske that this video is from 2020. He has made 14 posts since this one. 14. Man, these people they're ravenous. They're just churners. I could never do this. God. He has still not deleted or corrected this lie. He knows he is spreading misinformation and doesn't give a fuck. Yeah, Kyle is gone on foreign policy. He's donezo. And he has been for years. So whatever. There are pro-regime protests, rallies mourning the Ayatollah. It's just not like this. Come on. Come on. Didn't he say before to shelter, then he said it's time to take back your country? No. Trump is not really... Trump was even saying take back your country in the first speech as well. So that whole thing about wait for instructions or stand back and stand by, that's from Reza Pahlavi. That's not from Trump. Anyway, I think that's a reasonable update for today. I think that's basically all the newer stories. Is it true that you thought Trump did say hold off? Maybe. But has he actually... Has Reza Pahlavi said to do anything? I haven't seen that. Today's connections is so bad. Oh, fuck. Good stream, Loner. Shut up. You can add Cyprus to the list. Tehran has apparently launched a tirade of missiles across the Middle East. In the direction of several countries, one of which is apparently Cyprus. Okay. British troops took out a drone in Iraq. Damn! Cyprus! 2 Iranian missiles were fired in the direction of Cyprus, which is home to RAF Akrotiri and hundreds of troops, as well as Typhoons and F-35s. The UK does not believe the missiles were aimed at Cyprus, but the attacks demonstrate how quickly the situation could escalate. Troops are ready to withdraw from bases across the region or disperse if necessary. It is understood. What's this person saying? John Healy. This regime is lashing out. It's lashing out in an increasingly indiscriminate and widespread way, and people will be really concerned that it's not just military targets, but civilian airports like Kuwait, hotels in Dubai and Bahrain are being hit. And so that's why we've strengthened the UK defenses in the region. We are active in regional defense operations. Mad. Absolutely mental. So we don't know if they've attacked Cyprus or meant to, but in the direction... Yeah. People are saying Pahlavi has said almost the same thing. Where? I haven't seen that. Let me see. What was this? So 2 days ago, it was saying get ready to resume. I don't see Pahlavi today. I mean, it would probably go on to Persian media before it reaches English. Trump miscalculated so bad, bro. We're in day 1, but okay, day 2. Politico has pitched to lead. What's this? Didn't I watch this yesterday, or is this a new one? This is from 8 hours ago. Okay, I will be the voiceover person, wanker. Okay. My compatriots, Ali Khamenei, the Zahak of our time. I saw this already. Isn't this, wait, is this new? Did we not watch this yesterday? Did we not watch this yesterday? I remember the Zahak. I remember fucking Dan asking about it. The demon who only weeks ago ordered, it's new. Okay, it's a new one. Okay, this is a new one. Issued the order for the massacre of tens of thousands of Iran's finest sons and daughters is gone. With his disgraceful death and that of many of his appointees and affiliates, the Islamic Republic is drawing its final breaths. Through your will and bravery, it will soon be consigned to the dustbin of history. The great nation of Iran seeks the complete fall of the Islamic Republic, and we will bring down this demonic regime. Demonic. My message to the remaining officials of this Republic of Terror is this: surrender to the Iranian nation. Declare your loyalty to my plan and our transition framework, and hand over power without further bloodshed. Any attempt by the remnants of the regime to appoint a successor to Khamenei is doomed to failure in advance. Whoever they place in his position will not only lack legitimacy, but will also be a partner in the crimes of this regime. To the military, law enforcement, and security forces, I say, your weapons must be used to defend the great nation of Iran, not the Republic of crime, thuggery, and its anti-Iranian criminals. Join the people of Iran and the Lion and Sun Revolution. Use your arms to protect Iranians against the mercenaries of the Islamic Republic, so that this 47-year nightmare may end more swiftly. The death of the criminal Khamenei, though it does not repay the blood that has been shed, can calm the wounded hearts of grieving fathers and mothers, spouses and children, sisters and brothers. A measure of solace for the proud families of the martyrs of Iran's Lion and Sun Revolution. Honorable and courageous people of Iran, the death of the despot of our time, although it marks the beginning of our great national celebration, is not the end of the road. Remain vigilant, be prepared. The time for a widespread and decisive in the streets is very near. I ask you, while maintaining your security, what did he say there? The widespread? Oh, there's a word missing maybe, or a mistranslation. I ask you, while maintaining your security, to demonstrate your satisfaction with and support for the crushing of the Islamic Republic through nightly chants, and to shout your demands for Iran's future. My strength comes from your strength and your support. I ask Iranians abroad, who for weeks have worked tirelessly and relentlessly as the powerful voice of our compatriots inside Iran, to intensify your efforts. Force the world to hear the Iranian people's support for this humanitarian intervention and our demand for the complete fall of the regime. Sensitive days lie ahead of us. Together we will walk the path to victory, and we will overthrow the Islamic Republic. Long live Iran. So he didn't actually say take to the streets. It sounded like he was saying shout your support from your wind, like the nightly chants. Yeah. I guess he wants people to make sure they can build up their numbers to keep morale going. He's not saying go into the streets and fight with people. This doesn't have that many views on YouTube, but it will across Telegrams and social media and Twitter accounts and whatever else. Yeah. Okay. Baghdad airport got hit. I'm aware. I saw that earlier. Shit. What is this? Oh. Breaking. Al-Maqasid Hospital, a Palestinian hospital in Jerusalem, was struck by debris from an Iranian missile and has now been closed. Oh, shit.
قاصد
الله واقع شظية والله كبيرة بالمقاصد حبيبي الله شظية قد حالها نازلة على المقاصد.
Why do you say debris like that? Because I'm from the UK?
هاي سكر.
Damn. Yeah, there were landings in Cyprus as well. Something hit something in Cyprus. That's all we know so far. Never mind. Well, well. Oh yeah, you can see the overheads here. Wait, I wonder if Luckner's got it. Oh shit. It's a lot of flashes. Oh my god. Does regime change ever work? Sometimes, yes. Subscribe, you fucking assholes. I mean, sorry.